Hello. Today we're going to install the GreenWave Advantage system. The GreenWave Advantage system utilizes the GreenWave Solo, which is a hardness scale prevention unit that provides a coating on the plumbing and the interior of all of your faucets and things that prevents hardness from actually adhering to the plumbing or the actual faucets. Also, in addition to that, we have a dual filter housing that is going to utilize a 5-micron sediment filter and then a radial flow carbon filter. The radial flow carbon filter are going to remove several different contaminants. The most common for this filter would be chlorine. This sediment filter, we recommend you have a sediment filter in front of the GreenWave system regardless, just because we want to protect this from getting the actual check valve in here stopped up or anything like that. So this is for somebody that has no filtration at all, and this is where they're starting. So we want to put this at the beginning of the house, at the beginning of the plumbing system, typically right after it comes in from the home. Now if you have irrigation or outside spigots, you'll want to plumb those in before this. The yield for this particular cartridge is based on household use and not irrigation and topping off pools and spas like that. So if you want to get the true yield out of this cartridge, then we need to make sure that we plumb the irrigation and the outside spigots prior to the system. If you want to run them through the carbon filter, that's up to you, but again, you're going to deplete these prematurely. You may have to change these filters more often if you do that. So again, we want it before the hot water heater, of course, and we want to capture all the cold water of the house, but not necessarily the outside spigots or irrigation system. So with that being said, you'll find your incoming water, which this is our actual test rack here, but you're going to want to shut off the incoming water, and then we're going to start to plumb this in. First and foremost, we're going to plumb the actual filter housing in, and the most important part about this housing is to make sure you have it secured and make sure you have really good wall fasteners. If you have a dry wall, then you may want to actually put a backing board in between the studs so you have something solid to screw to, which is kind of what we've done here because this is a building with steel studs, so I've hit the steel studs, and then we have a board here that I can actually do several installs on. But that's what you're going to want to do at home. Now if your walls are exposed, you can see the studs and it makes it pretty easy. If not, you can use a stud finder or something like that to find it. But we're going to mount this first, and then we're going to plumb from our incoming pipe, and we're going to go into the inlet. All of our systems, when we send them to you, they're always going to plumb left to right, your left to right, not mine. But you have the ability to switch this. If your plumbing comes in from the right, you can take these bolts loose and flip this bracket around and actually change the end to the left side or to the right side, whichever side you want. Actually, this would be the right side. But for this case, we're going to do it traditionally, which is left to right. So you could tell the in and out too. It's really simple. First of all, the pressure reliefs are on the inside, but also it is stamped in the top here, in and out. I'm going to bring this up to you so you can see that. But see the word in right there on the top, and then we have out on the top there. That's how you know which way it goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this pipe out of here. We're going to get this mounted up, and we're going to plumb into the beginning of this, and then we'll be right back. Once you have your system mounted up here, whatever adapter you use, your threaded adapter that you screw in here, you want to be really liberal with the actual Teflon tape. If this fitting screws in and bottoms out before it actually tightens up, take it back out and tape it up again, or you will get a leak. The tolerance in here is not real tight, so I put quite a bit on here. I'll show you when I'm done here, right before we screw it in. But when it looks like it's too much, then go ahead and put a couple more rolls on there, or a couple more rounds. Probably 10 or 12 rolls or rounds on there. It's pretty thick with it, so make sure you do that, because you want that, like I said, you want this to tighten up in here. If it doesn't tighten up and it bottoms out, then you want to take it out and re-thread tape it. We'll go ahead and get this plumbed up. Okay. Now that we've got this secured and we have our plumbing plumbed into the actual housing, now we need to install the GreenWave module. It's important to notice on the GreenWave module that there is a flow direction here. You want to make sure that this is plumbed in properly. If you have this backwards, the check valve will be on the inlet and the water is shut off and you won't get any water in the home. So if that happens to you, check and make sure your flow's right, because that's probably what you've done. But make sure that's right before we plumb in the rest of the way. So what we're going to do now is we're going to plumb in from here and then, or from here in and then out and then back to our existing plumbing. So we're going to put the rest of this plumbing in now, and then we'll come back and we'll do startup. Basically, once we have this all plumbed in, we're going to do some checks for leaks, and we're going to do some flushing, and then we'll get the system started. So we're going to break for a minute. We're going to plumb this in. We'll be right back. Once we've installed everything and we have everything tightened down, then we can actually put our filters in and we'll start doing some flushing. I want to talk about these fittings a little bit. These are swivel fittings that will come with your system. These particular fittings have rubber gaskets in it, so you don't need to Teflon tape these threaded areas. Those rubber gaskets will seal it. But anywhere else, you know, that you're using threads, you want to make sure you put plenty of Teflon tape on there and seal it up. Also, when we flush these first filters, we don't want this actual GreenWave cartridge in place, because we don't want to flush any of the dust fines and whatnot out of these filters into the GreenWave cartridge. So before we do anything, we're going to remove this cartridge and put the housing back on, and then we'll put our two filters in here, and then we'll do some flushing. So to remove this cartridge, there's actually a wrench that you get with the system, and provided the water's still off now, we haven't done anything. So we're going to take this loose, and it just spins right out of this housing. And then inside you have your actual GreenWave cartridge. We're going to take that out and put it to the side now. And you'll want to put it somewhere sanitary. You don't want to get it dirty, but once you have that out, then we're going to put this back in place. And it's just basically going to be an empty housing to allow the flushing to be done. Hand tighten it. And then we really don't want to crank this down. We just want to kind of snug it a little bit. Okay. And then we'll take our housings off. I think I already got them loose here somewhat. Spin them down. Now, right now they're empty, but when you go to change your filters for the first time, these things are going to be heavy because they're going to have quite a bit of water in them. So usually put a bucket underneath it so I can immediately just dump it right into the bucket. So like I said, they're light right now, but when they're full of water and when it's time to change the filter, these are going to be pretty heavy. So keep that in mind too. See, both of these have a O-ring on the top of the sump. Make sure that's in place. And if they're not greased, make sure you grease them up with some food grade silicone, or if you don't have that, you can use corn oil or vegetable oil. Now the first filter that we put in is the pleated sediment filter. This is a 5 micron filter, and this is going to knock out most sediment that would be in the water. But we want to make sure we take the plastic completely off and then put it down on the housing. There's actually, I don't know if you can see it on that housing, but there's actually a little nipple that sticks up that the filter will fit over. So once you put it down in there, as you can see, the filter's basically inset in there a little bit. Now there's a nipple in the top of the housing that goes in there, and then there's a ring that cuts in here that seals it off. So we're going to put this up first. This is going to be the first one. And the reason why it's in this left-hand housing is because this is the incoming water. If it was the other way, then we could have it, in this housing, because you want the water to touch this filter first. So for now, I'm going to spin it up here hand tight. And then we're going to get the radial flow carbon filter. And again, we got to tear the paper off of this as well, the plastic. Now, this particular filter has a gasket on the top and a gasket on the bottom, and this outside fiber, if your hands are all dirty, you're going to get that all dirty too. So you may want to wash your hands before you do this. If you want to put rubber gloves on, you can do that as well. But again, this is going to fit over the little nipple in the bottom of the housing, and then we're going to put it up into this housing and spin it in. Now, if this catches or something, then it may not be in the right place, so don't keep cranking it down. It should spin up literally this easy with your hands until you get all the way up, until it kind of stops. Now, once it stops, then we'll take the supplied filter wrench and we're going to give it a snug on each one. Okay, now once that's done and we have both of these in place, we're going to go downstream and open up a spigot or a faucet, and then we're going to turn the water on. The idea is we want to rinse these out while the Green Wave canister is out of there, and get these flushed and the water as clear as possible before we put the Green Wave canister in. So when we do that, we're going to turn the water on. We're going to go slow. We're not going to slam the water on. We're going to slowly turn it on until it's fully opened. And you might crack it like a quarter turn and wait a few minutes and then quarter turn more. But once you have the water on and you don't really have any air showing out there, we want to go to each one of these actual red buttons and push it, because what can happen is these can fill halfway but not the rest of the way because they have air pockets in them. So these pressure relief buttons here will actually let the air blow out of here. You actually hear it, and then you'll suddenly get a little bit of water there and you know that it's full. You want this canister completely full. But once you have them both full, you've bled them off, and the water's running clear, then we're going to shut the water off again, and we're going to put our Green Wave canister in. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to shut the water off and then put the canister in. Now, once you've shut the water off, go ahead and open that spigot down line, or if it's still open, fine, but we want to make sure we relieve the pressure here. So once the pressure's relieved, then we can actually use our wrench here and take our housing loose again. We're going to spin that down. And then take note here that there is an O-ring here that seals this. So when you take it, up and down, make sure that O-ring is still in place, because if you drop it on the floor and forget it, you're going to have a leak here. So make sure it's there. Now, once you've done that, then now we can actually put our Green Wave canister back in place. And we'll put it back in here. We'll tighten it down hand tight again. And then we'll snug it up with the wrench just a little bit. Okay, now once that's done, we're going to again leave the spigot on downstream, and we're going to slowly turn our water on in little increments until it's fully open, and you should see water come into this and it'll fill this up. Now, once you have this completely full and you've bled all the air out this last time, then go downstream, make sure it's coming out clear. Once it's coming out clear, you're installed and ready to go. The thing to remember is to periodically look at your actual canister in here, and as you see that start to deplete, then you're going to want to replace that. Typically this cartridge is going to last 2 months for a household of 4 with regular water usage, but if you're using an enormous amount of water or you're using it for irrigation or other things, then this is going to deplete a little bit faster. The other factor could be your hardness level. Depending on what your hardness level is, depends on how long this will last as well. So this is the Green Wave Advantage system. I hope you enjoy your water.